Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Soccer Chat Match Park, Zambia's premier analysis show. Glad you could take time to join us for this week's presentation. Hope you had a weekend to savor. So, from a Zambian perspective, it was an international break that saw us play Niger and Benin. In both games, we managed to pick up a point, or it was even Stevens, Justin Shonga, with a couple of goals against Benin, and Cletus Chamachoto was the man that scored against Niger. So we get to look at that one. So just two matches in the MTN Fast Super League, as it was an international break. And the next time we have an international break, it therefore means somewhere in the second week of November, Zambia will be traveling to Blida to take on Algeria. Let's get into the plate tectonics, shall we, of tonight's show. So it was the two games that Zambia played and what they actually mean in terms of the modus operandi and what we are going to do going forward. Helping me with tonight's presentation of Zambia's Premier Analysis show, help me make welcome former AM Welding coach Franklin Malambo and ex-City Market coach Stafford Kame. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. So, two games played over the weekend and, two draws. Was that the kind of results that we required, Franklin?
A mixed bag, really. But all things considered, I think we're playing away from home. Yes, there were draws, but there are always positives that we can pick from the same. I think the fact that we were able to score 3 goals, we haven't really managed to score a lot when we were playing away. The fact that we were able to get into leads in those games is also a positive. So I think all things considered, yes, it's a mixed bag, but we can take a lot of positives from those two games.
All right, so now I'm just thinking, a lot of caps were handed out. If you look at yesterday's game against Benin, wholesale changes, to say the least. Do you sense some direction? Are we able to decipher what Agre Chiangi wants to do with this team?
I feel like, as I said, a draw away, and with the changes that he made, I think it's a good direction he's heading for, and he's giving people a chance, giving them experience, and seeing what they can do for the country is a very good thing.
All right, so let's begin to discuss the nitty-gritty, shall we? So the next assignment for Agre Chiangi is on the 19th day of October. Zambia tried to see if we can qualify for the Chan Championship. Remember, we are leading by a solitary goal to nil, thanks to an Amit Chamende strike when we travel to Eswatini. But let's talk about the legacy stuff, shall we? So Agre Chiangi has been coach of the national team for a while, but yesterday he had a date with Benin. Familiar foes, to say the least. They have been a thorn in the flesh of many Zambian sides in the past. If you remember that in 2004, Zambia didn't make the trip to the Africa Cup of Nations, it was because of Benin. And the tormentors in chief then were the likes of Razak Omotoyosi. But with the passage of time, the Chipolopolo went back to Benin. And this time, we're happy there was no Sepe, and it was 2-2. Let's hear from Agre Chiangi his post-match thoughts about how the game was.
Coach, welcome to this. Thank you. You played to a 2-0 draw against Benin. Your thoughts over the game?
It was a good game, good preparation. Benin gave us a good game. They played well. We also played well. For me, I think it's a very good foundation for the future because it has showed us a few things that we need to work on. And again, it has showed us certain things that we need to work on mentally with the team, which is good.
Okay, Coach, you conceded 3 minutes to go to stoppage time. What do you think would be the cause of such problems since you conceded the same minute in Niger?
It's just concentration. Yeah, what we need to do is as we go back, we have to talk about concentration levels. We have to concentrate throughout the game until the game finishes. Because I think the second goal that they scored, the defenders did not challenge for the ball. I don't know if they are waiting for the referee to blow for an offside, but the only thing is that they did not challenge for that ball.
Are you disappointed with the result?
I can say yes and no. First, yes, because we've not won. And then secondly, I think it helps us also. It's better we make a mistake now than come to make the same the mistake when we play Algeria. Because in the Algeria game, we really have to work on perfection. So it's better these things come out now so that we can work on them.
Coach, first half you played a full Chan team. Are you happy with how the players performed?
At their level, yes, there's no problem. But again, for me, I still need them to push a lot. Certain individuals that I need to work hard. I'm not going to mention names because we played as a team. But I know there are certain players that we need to work with that they need to push their levels of performance.
Going forward ahead of the Chan game, what do you expect from the players, Coach?
I expect the best. I want all the players to give the best. We just have to give the best. We are not yet through. We haven't yet qualified. So we have to go home and make sure that we give the best and qualify the team.
Thank you very much, Coach.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that is the gaffer. So preparation for two gigantic ties for Zambia. Of course, yesterday he managed to do what? A trial of what he may try to do against Eswatini, but he knows that perhaps Benin and Niger are probably not in the same tactical bracket, so to speak, Stafford. And I'm just thinking there. He's talked about certain mistakes, closing down, and man marking in the final third.
When it comes to him acknowledging the mistakes, I think it's a very good step towards positivity, because once you see the mistakes and you're ready and you accept them, then you know that, oh, maybe the next game he might actually change a lot of stuff.
All right.
Tactically and
so now let's talk about his defensive way of doing things. We know when he shuts shop, he's able to keep out the opposition. He's done it before, and he's got the numbers to back that position. But in terms of marking now, what does it tell the players? Medium block, high pressing game, low block. What do we really do? Because again, with the variation of opponents, it will make for some interesting reading.
Yes, and so that is why it's always important that when you're preparing, you try and prepare with a team that will mirror the kind of team that you are playing. You also have to consider that depending on the team that you play, they might actually come in different ways. But for starters, you've already mentioned, when he goes for the block, it appears to work for him. But then the question is always when he tries to probably go the open way, that is why we get it. I think we are still getting it wrong. So I think he's yet to establish the correct balance of doing things. So if we are going to go the high press, are we sure that once that high press is broken, for example, are we able to recover, especially in the consolidative zone for the opponent? Are we able to recover? So I think it starts from there. If we're going to play the high press, we should be sure that once it is beaten, we have a plan B in the middle. But
I haven't seen us do it.
Unfortunately, we're not doing it chiefly because of the way we set up, especially considering that you have two wide players and usually only have two that are in the central areas. So once the high press is beaten, then if you have a 2 against 3, that is 3 for the opponent, already your problems begin from there. And if you're not set up well, then a lot of issues are going to arise. So at the moment, I think that is the balance that he's yet to find. And I hope that we find that balance by the time we start the AFCON qualifiers.
Now, I'm just thinking, he'll probably not have the luxury of time to begin to address the issue of when to mark, when to press, and his defensive philosophy. So it's the opponent will sometimes always get into your final third. Then, how do you deal with it? Because now it's a fire pot, and he's saying that he's glad it's happening when he's got the luxury of time where he can address it with the players. Wow. This is scary, especially for senior operators at this level, where you'll be playing against the likes of Slimani, Riyad Mahrez, and whatnot. The indecision about when to move and when you didn't move becomes a real big tactical issue.
Yeah, and with the national team, you don't actually have enough time to practice. So I think the best thing he'll do is recovering. We lose the ball, everyone is behind the ball. That's the safest for a national team.
So let's talk about yesterday's game. So I'm happy to report that with a fresh passport, still warm from the printer. Mwenya Chiwe managed to make his debut for Zambia, considered one goal yesterday at the death of that match. And yeah, Polokwane City's second choice goalkeeper, behind George Gova of Zimbabwe as well. So that's the man who made his debut yesterday, which begs the question. We haven't seen Mwene in the two friendly matches. Is this the polite way of saying, thanks, Mwene, for all you did? But right now, I don't think you are good enough to be considered. We've got Sebastian Mwangi, we've got Lawrence, we've got Mwenya Chiwe.
I think to start with, the fact that Kennedy hasn't yet come out in the open to say he has retired from international football means I think he still has hope that he will play. He is still willing to come and play. But then, are we going to say his time is done? I'm not quite sure yet, because of the three goalkeepers, other goalkeepers that you've mentioned, Chiwe included, I think none of them so far has raised the hand enough to claim that spot. We are still in decision as we speak. And so the earlier that issue is sorted out, the better. So I think if we're going to let go of Mwene, I think it's better he's thought earlier enough. But the fact that it doesn't come out means I think he still has hope of playing and should always be in consideration.
Is he the type of player? Is he the type of player that should be wondering and say, oh, could I be going back to play for Zambia next month, or?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. It shouldn't be the case. Like I said earlier, we should have been much clearer about this. The coaches or whoever are handling the team should have been much clearer about it. We also deserve to know. The fans out there deserve to know, like, is Mwene still going to play or not? And then if at all he's no longer in their plans, it's always important for the coaches, whoever the handlers are, to bring him in and have that discussion. Thank you for your services, and you part on an amicable term. However, I've always thought that it's important to come from the player. When they feel that they are not able to give you their best, they come out and say they are not able to continue. Yes, as a coach, you may see they no longer have it much in them. But even when you see that, it's always important to sit on the table, you discuss, you tell them your views, they give you theirs, and then you part on amicable terms. But back to your question, he's not that kind of player whom we should be keeping.
Who should be calculating and say, okay, am I going to play for my country next month or not?
I think for now he should just be seated back. Be picked, be not picked. He saved the country well. I mean, let's let him. I think he's got the freedom to not stress about being picked or not.
Yeah, but talking about defensive issues and yeah, he said he'll work on it. Does working on it also consider calling back a gentleman by the name of Stopila Sunzu, who was uncalled for this game?
I think. Yes, primarily when you're trying to address a problem like the defensive issue, I think we need to look at two separate aspects. The quality that players will bring to the table, and also how you're going to merge those qualities and have a solid base. Does Sto still have what it takes to play for the national team? Absolutely, yes. Does the team require him? Based on what we've seen so far, I think we do. There's need for leadership at the back. I think in the two games that we've just spoken of, remember we've given up leads not once, not twice, but 3 times. Already that tells us that there could be a vacuum of leadership at the back. And you need someone like him who has played at the international level. He won the AFCON. He's played a lot of games for Zambia. And so with the wealth of experience that he has, he could be one of the solutions that we need. That is on the side of the players' qualities. But then how do you match them in? It also falls back on the coach. How does he get the combinations right of who is able to partner who, and how are they able to set up and work well together?
Now, I'm just thinking, and honestly so, how do we deal with the so-called experienced guys? Because what is clear, and what has been said clearly so, is that we are rebuilding this team.
But are you rebuilding around a certain base? Stopila Sunzu.
So what is the base?
Exactly.
Let me ask that question.
Experience should be our base.
And who's our best? Based on the 2 friendly matches.
It's hard to pick out a spine based on those 2 friendly matches. The friendly matches are also hard to gauge in that clearly from yesterday's lineup, we saw that he was trying to prepare for Eswatini. In the first match, it was somehow different. So who do we really pick up as our spine? At the moment, it's hard to
of the
point
Polo
out.
Polo proper,
Yes,
not
yes.
the Chan,
It's
the
hard-
Polo
yes,
Polo
it's
proper
hard to
that will
point
turn
out.
up against Algeria.
Yes, because the spine starts from the goalkeeper. We're not sure
Yeah,
who
we're
our
not sure.
goalkeeper is. So already that indicates a problem for what the spine
Back
is.
four.
In back four, without Sunzu, there isn't much that we are going to point at in terms of the spine. Yes, a few people here and there might bring about Adrian Chama, but is he really going to give you the command that you need? I'm not yet sure. Yes, he's a good player, but is he going to give you the command that you need? I'm not sure. Let's go to central midfield as well. We keep chopping and changing. We keep chopping
A
and
lot of
changing to a
changes.
point where the under 23 lads begin to look like the major players in the team. Without Enoch, you know, we're going to struggle. And so if he's going to be part of the spine as young as he is, it could be an indicator of maybe something that we're not doing right. Yes, it might work, it might not. Up front, it's also another issue. And so we cannot really point out at 4 players at the moment that are going to form that
So
spine.
do we need the spine for?
Every team needs a spine.
No,
Absolutely.
I'm saying have we gone about it correctly in terms of the issue of the spine? Because Franklin seems to be at sea. He doesn't seem to put a finger on what our spine is.
I thought he would have picked the senior guys, the Sunzu, for these friendlies to see how they can help with improving the young players. Because experience helps a lot, because not only Sunzu performing, but he also gets to teach the younger players to say, no, this is how we do stuff, this is how we should move, this is what reaction we should give, this is how we should respect other coaches, like certain things. So I think experience would
Anyway,
have been there.
let's talk numbers, shall we? Numbers. Agre Chiangi has been charged of the Polo for 9 games. Let's look at his tenure and what he's been able to do as gaffer of the Polo. So his first game was against Namibia, but here's the issue, gentlemen. 6 wins, 2 draws, no losses, goals for 14. We're averaging 1.75 goals per game, and goals against the average, we are doing what? 1, because we've conceded 8 in the same period. Now, how should we interpret this? And does it speak to the tactical issues that Agri Chiangi should possibly be considering getting into these games? Because if you look at that breakdown, you've got 1 AFCON qualifier, dead rubber, against Namibia, that he won 4 goals to 1. You're talking about 3 games at Kosafa, where he eventually won. You're talking about 3 games at Chan and 2 friendly matches.
How do we interpret them? The fact that we are conceding less than we are scoring is a positive for starters, because it tells us that we are able to win. So the fact that we are scoring more is a good thing as compared to how we are conceding. We're conceding 1 goal per game on average. It only becomes a poor statistic if you're not scoring. But if you are scoring, it's okay. However, you may not always be able to grind out matches as we are doing at present. So yes, the statistics are actually in his favor. Very good numbers. If you're going to win 6 games out of 9, those are very good numbers. But then, as always, statistics won't reveal everything. They will just give you a glimpse of what could be there. And the fact is, what I like about these 4 things, that as much as he has not lost, he's kept on emphasizing the fact that the team can still improve, that the team still needs to make adjustments. And so when you look at his stats and he's saying his team needs to make adjustments, it is a positive from where I stand.
Hey.
6 wins
Yeah.
out of 9. That's a very good record, actually.
But is it important, that breakdown? 1 AFCON qualifier. So out of the 9, you're only talking about possibly 3 games where he's had his strongest Polo setup. The game against Namibia, he had the full complement. He could have chosen anybody. And the 2 games against Niger and Benin, the rest of the games, basically a Chan project. So out of 9, you're talking about 3 being Polo proper matches, and there he's won 1 and drawn twice.
So 1 draw and 1 win and 2 draws from 3 matches is not very bad. I'll still say this. The fact that he has not lost in a way tells us he knows how to win matches. Let's even look at
something he's doing right.
yes. Let's look at his club. He's showed us over the last two seasons that he knows how to win matches. Yes, the opposition might not be as strong as we may want to put it, but then the fact that he has conquered what has been put in front of him is a positive, and that's something that we should be looking at. As to how much he can do with this Chipolopolo proper, we still have to see when the qualifiers begin. But what we have at the moment, I think, looks good enough.
Looks good. Okay, let's discuss some more numbers, shall we? Let's look at, in the same period, Zambia has taken the lead. Let's look at the numbers in terms of the statistics that Zambia has managed to rack in after taking the lead in these games. And again, you look at 5 matches there, 3 wins, 2 draws. Again, undefeated. So that's the constant. And perhaps maybe he's giving it a decent shout that, look, I can actually hold this job substantively.
I think so far it's proven, and from the result you can tell the biggest thing is not losing. Conceding, we can tell every time we concede we're still winning the games, and the only scary part is what happens when we actually don't get the number of chances we usually get in a game.
Let's talk about styles. If you look at first game, he threw the kitchen sink at Namibia, managed to win that one. It was a gravy train. Then you had 3 COSAFA games, one against Malawi. We drew 2-2 that one. We had to rescue that one in the 90th minute thanks to a Chabola strike after a cutback by Tapson Kaseva. But ultimately, you're seeing a trend that in the 3 COSAFA matches, one he attacked, conceded goals, and the other 2, he went for defensive solidity and eventually won the trophy. Interpretation, gentlemen.
Yes. For starters, I think we've noticed that when he closes a shop, we'll get the result. When he doesn't, we're exposed. But then I think in football, it's always important to know what your strength is and try to build on the same to help you win matches. Yes, there are times when it does not work, but it's always important that even when you are playing what looks like a better opponent, what looks like a more fancied opponent, it's always important to realize that you also have your own strengths and try to use those strengths against what they have and try to play your game and win. So the fact that he has discovered that when he shuts shop, he's able to get results, he'll probably rely on it, especially when he's playing away. We have seen it work for him in most of these games that he has played away. And he'll probably open up a little bit and let the players be more expressive when we are playing at home and be able to get the results. But I'm not sure so much if in the Chipolopolo proper, how much players are going to be willing to stick back, how many players are going to be willing to do the donkey work for the 90 minutes and try to look for that one moment of definition in the match.
So the low block requires a lot of tactical discipline. And you've got players that have got an affinity to attack. I'm thinking Cletus Chama will be in his plans, Enoch Mwepu will be in his plans, Patson Daka, you've got the likes of Lazarus Kambole. And already when you've got that number of players that have got that attacking affinity, now the issues of balance comes in. And he's predominantly played a 4-4-2 in all these games. In terms of style, what should we read from Agre Chiangi?
When you look at the previous games that we've played as Zambia, you can tell that defensively we are very good. Once we attack, I think there are people that switch off, switch on, switch off. So I'm trying to understand what instructions he actually gives when we're attacking and what he gives when we're defending. Because when we're defending, everyone looks to be in the right position. But when we're attacking, it's like people are excused to say, okay, no, I think you today don't mark, you attack, you do it. So once he gets that right, the 4-4-2, first of all, is the basic formation of football. It's the easiest way of football. So it should be easier also to defend and attack at the same time. Once you get the ball, we open wide.
We've talked about our defensive attributes, and I think we've been neat when we've tried to defend. But the question is, then, what is then our attacking philosophy when we are away? And sometimes if we go down, because we have gone down in certain games, but he's also managed to win games that where we've gone down. Case in point, Botswana. Botswana came to the Hero Stadium and it ended 3-2. And it was 1-0, managed to get to parity 1-1, then Botswana made it 2-1. And then we had to claw back. Halftime, we went in 2-2, and at the end of the match, Bruce Msakanya's goal was the difference. So what will be our attacking DNA, especially away from home?
Yeah, I think even before we look at our attacking DNA, we need to also pay particular attention to how we are going to be managing the transition, especially the negative one, the moment we lose the ball, because I think that's where the genesis of our problems has always been. When we were not expecting them to have the ball, and the moment they have the ball, the way we set up right after they get it, I think has always been an issue for us. And so what is going to be, the moment we do that well, we're going to get it right. But then what is going to be our attacking philosophy going forward? He has proved to be a coach that likes a lot of wing play. We're not really going to see a lot of combination play, especially in the midfield. He will try and go to wing play, and at times you always go for route one. Most likely he might choose the same, especially that he'll try and use the block, he'll try and sit back, and so the only way you're going to catch them off guard is if you're going to go on a quick counter, which usually happens on a quick transition, the positive transition. So you always try and put the ball wide or try and go the long way. I think that is what he might stick to. Remember, against Botswana, what we caught napping, because I think from the onset he tried to attack. We didn't have the balance, and then our discipline the moment we got the goals was very poor, because right after we score, they score again. So it is those critical 10 to 15 minutes after we score, we really have to pay attention to those. But what is going to be our DNA? I think he'll still stick to what he does. He'll still try and sit back, then try and hit in a quick counter. But then against teams that are well set up to prevent that counter, we still need to look for plan B.
All right, so a lot of questions that need to be answered in a defensive and attacking sense. Zambia's Premier Soccer Show continues after this break.
My name is Carol Mushota David. I'm a transformational speaker, writer, blogger, and movable optimist, serial entrepreneur, and I help people become better versions of themselves in their personal lives as well as their business. Watch my show Transforming with Carol every Sunday after the main news on QTV, DSTV channel 278.
Every person and every family, at one time or another, goes through a bereavement, a loss of a loved one, with a heavy burden of money, funeral arrangements, burial, and many other needs. This is why Unitato Industries presents Tontozo Funeral Plan, the best plan that covers you, your spouse, your children, parents-in-law, and members of your extended family, for as low as only 24 kwacha for everyone, together in one cover, with benefits leading as high as 20,000 kwacha per claim. So that means whenever you have a funeral of any covered member, the Tontozo Funeral Plan will provide you with, number 1, cash money to help you with different funeral needs. Number 2, a funeral voucher from Zambia's first and most experienced funeral home, Ambassador St. Anne's Funeral Parlor, providing body collection, preparation and transfers, mortuary and crematorium services, transfer of remains, funeral planning assistance, procession, hearses, coffins, caskets and tombstones. Register now at any of our outlets dotted countrywide or visit our website tontozo.com. Call us or SMS the word Tontozo to 0974 884545 and we'll call you back. Or send us an email to info@unitator.com. Tontozo, the Comforter. Underwritten by Liberty. Brought to you by Unitator Industries, striving to serve you better.
El Clasico, Barcelona, Real Madrid, one of the most beautiful football events in the world. It is something you have to be part of.
It's a start for the 16-year-old. Gets launched to the left hip, cross into Benzema. 1-0 to Real Madrid. They made it look so easy.
With 24 hours of football, 7 days a week in HD, it is always football time with
So the multi-million dollar question is, how will Agre Chiangi achieve vertical and horizontal compactness, and especially when we're attacking? Therefore means if we attack our opponents and push them high up and peg them in, it means our defensive line needs to be higher up the pitch, and it means playing with the high line. Playing with the high line requires you to have got good recovery once you lose the ball, so that you manage that space behind. Now, if you are going to play like that, probably need a lot of getting used to.
And I don't think we've had the time actually to prepare for for such a strategic defensive mechanism.
Now, just that, the fragmentation between the lines, okay? It's because, let's look at the way we played on average in the 9 games. So you've got 2 wingers that go up and down the line. You've got 2 strikers that play. Sometimes with Green Eagles, we've seen a number 10, but we've also seen him play with 2 number 9s in that style. But most importantly, the number 8 plays like in the hole, and which varies it a bit. It looks like a diamond, but it's not. It's a 4-1-3-2. So, with that said, I'll be interested to see how non-traditional wingers like Cletus Chamachota, how they are going to be deployed. Because with Sven, he played him in a 4-3-3, and he likes to peel on one side of the pitch. So how do you manage players like Cletus Chama, Enoch Mwepo, who becomes his defensive midfielder?
The question usually about formations is, what do you choose first? Do you choose the formation, or do you choose the players that you have? Then using the players that you have, you decide.
They influence how we are going to play.
To set up. So I don't know which one he goes with first. But then from what we have seen already, he doesn't like the wingers that will peel off from the side and begin to cut in, because of usually the space that they vacate is what the opponent will use on a quick transition. And so how is he going to play with players like Cletus? If he's going to play Cletus, I think it will require a bit of change in the way the team was set up. If he still plays the 4-4-2 or the 4-2-3-1 as he wants to play it, and has a player like Cletus on the wing, it means one of the 2 central midfielders who have to
cover.
Yes, to cover that line. Equally, your wing back, your number 3 or your number 3 might not really get the license to roam, because the moment he roams and his winger has roamed, then you are putting the central midfielder in a spot of bother. Especially that if he vacates and goes wide, he's vacating another place in the central areas which they could use. So if he's going to play Cletus, play Enoch in the same team, he might be forced to change the way he sets up.
It will be a very difficult thing, because
is it something that we should, as a way of being tactically versatile? Because our tactics change, our formation hardly changes under Agre Chiangi. So how do we need another formation?
I think we'd perform better in a 4-3-3, because 4-4-2 and the type of players we've got, especially the midfield, Mwepu, Cletus, who can play defensive midfield. I'm not a fan of seeing Mwepu.
One of them will need to be on the bench.
I'm not a fan of seeing Mwepu play defensively, and because I prefer him in the attack. He looks more brilliant. He's more open-minded. He thinks faster. He performs actually better at 8 than 6. So I think a 4-3-3 would help us.
So based on the 9 games, how do we deal with our tactical variety?
How we deal with our tactical variety is, first things first, we need to look at what is going to give us the result. So if getting the result means sacrificing certain players, we may have to do it. But then, if we want certain players to play, then it means we have to alter our formations. But based on the 9 games that we have seen him being in charge, he has hardly changed the formation. He has gone the same way. He has set up the same way. So are we likely to see a change in formation? It looks unlikely. But then to bring in other players, he might be forced to. But ultimately, I think he should be going for something that is going to make his team win. So if it means changing the formation, then go for it. If it means sticking to the same, We go that way.
Okay, so let's talk about scoring and conceding, shall we? Let's just look at the numbers in terms of what Zambia has been able to do. In terms of that statistic there, after conceding first, Zambia, we've conceded first in 2 matches. We've won both, and these games were against Botswana and, of course, against Malawi at Kosafa. But again, that was a penalty shootout. But 3 clean sheets again. And yeah, where we close shop.
Already we can see that our mental state is in the right track. It's actually a very difficult game when you're coming from behind. Firstly, mentally, you're confused because you don't expect to concede first. Secondly, it's now how do we work to get the goals and win the game. So the performance-wise, when we actually do concede, it's positive. We can see the boys have got the mental stabilities on point.
So now, in terms of character, that's a good
plus.
sign
That's
in terms of the character that we have. But again, someone will say, listen, it's Botswana, listen, it's Malawi, and it's Kosafa. Now, the business end is coming on. You're playing the African champions, you'll be playing Zimbabwe full strength, and like the last time we met them, they were preparing for AFCON, but now they'll have firmly full attention on the battle against Zambia. They want to win.
Yes, they all want to win. But
And the real question is about to start now.
Yes, the real question is about to start, but then you're only going to answer a question if you prepared for it in a way. Has he managed to prepare for it? The games could have given him an idea. And then in the other games like the Kosafa, listen, he didn't decide who the opponents were. But with what they presented, I think he managed to get something out of the same. The fact that we have managed to come back, apart from the fact that it shows that we have good character, it also shows that under pressure, maybe the guys are still able to stick to instructions. It also shows that under pressure, we're able to adjust and still try and get an advantage in those games.
But one will argue that somehow hanging from a cliff, it's because, look, in the game against Malawi, on virtually the last kick of the game, we clawed our way out of jail. And if you're at the Heroes National Stadium against Botswana, hey, there are a lot of hold your breath moments in that game. And again, you might argue and say, look, the maturity of the likes of Gabadinho, Muhango, in the case of Malawi, and this Botswana side is not quite the same.
Yes, the fact is we don't expect Algeria
to
set up.
Is it serious opposition, or were we that good?
But you know, Zito, there's nothing like serious competition.
No, I'm just saying.
Look at it this way, Zito. Once a team is leading, they're on an advantage. Be whoever you're facing, and for them to actually to get back and win the game, that's.
But you probably expect more maturity from a full strength Zimbabwe side, a full strength.
Yes, and
there's somewhere you expect better maturity from a full strength Chipolo side. So how should we interpret those 2 matches where we went down but still managed to claw our way to victory? One of them was via penalty shootout. I think we're clinical at Kosafa via the lottery sport kicks, but the qualifiers won't give us that luxury. We need to sort out things in 90 minutes.
I would say underrating. Maybe we underrated our opponents. No, it's an
Malawi?
easy game. Yeah, it's an easy game.
Botswana?
No, guys. Then the scorers were like, okay, no, it's now.
I think we should also consider the fact that if you look at the team that he took to Kosafa, it was a very experimental side. Between the players that started the game against Malawi, between them they should have been less than 20 international caps. So that gives you an indication of the kind of team that he took to the Kosafa. But I would like to look at the Kosafa and the qualifiers like a mock exam and the final exam. So the way you perform on mock gives you an indication. Quite all right. The mock might not be as hard as the final exam might be, but then it gives you an indication of how you are going to approach how you're going to approach the final examination. And so from that perspective, yes, Malawi, yes, Botswana could not have given us the test that Algeria are going to give us, surely. But then, in a way, they might have actually pointed out as to what we need to adjust to. Even the two friendly games that were played in the week.
What are the issues? let's point out something here. What are the issues on your part? Because it's not good to concede any goals, whether it's first or
second,
whatever it is. Is that
in general,
a perfect game of football you don't
You don't
concede?
concede, yeah.
So, what is the issue? What should we be saying that this needs to be dealt with pronto?
Mostly it's the change of us having the ball with then losing it. We have to understand, say what's going on between the lines. Where we have the ball, we're in attack, we lose the ball. What happens next? So that small gap there is what we need to work on, because immediately we lose
let
the
me
ball.
Let me ask this. And if you look at most of these games, Tapson Kaseva has been an important player for Agre Chiangi. How ready is he for Chipolo Polo proper?
I'm not, in truth, I'm not sure yet. It's a thought that I have from time to time.
Okay,
considering that,
next month, Franklin, the list comes out. Tapson Kaseva is on the list. Does he play? With who? How do we play?
Those are questions that we should be asking now, especially that when he coached Chipolopolo proper, Tapson has not been anywhere near that team. He was only in the Kosafa team, and he's always an ever present in the Chan team, and so the other players that we have are not really in the mode of Kaseva. So are we really going to expect, for example, Patson to do what Kaseva does, the hold up play? Are we going to expect it? Maybe they are two different strikers. Yes, they might all be top men, but they are different strikers. So yeah,
because maybe closer to his mode is somebody like Mwapem Sonda.
Yes,
But again, then he needs to make a decision
who to start with. I think I would honestly think you would go with Tapson, because obviously they've been together long, and Tapson understands the coach.
But what I'm saying is there's a lot of tactical dilemmas.
Yes, there are a lot of questions that even he himself might not really have answers to at the moment. But then we've already noted that Mwapem Sonda is in the mode of Kaseva. Who are we sure of giving us? Who has a higher conversion rate? I think Mwapem Sonda seems to have a higher conversion rate than Tapson. But how much has he worked with Mwapem Sonda? That is the other question. Even in the friendlies that were played, Mwapem Sonda did not start the game against Niger. Neither did he start the game against Benin yesterday. So if he was preparing in a way for that game, then we could get an indication from there.
Because these were the last
preparatory games.
Yes. The next time he sees them, it's battle and war time.
Yeah, but then
and there won't be that possibility of trying to see how they play, other than training, of course.
Yes, we may also look at it that there's probably just trying to, there are times when a coach will try out certain things that he thinks his team might do, even when he already has a plan of how he's going to go about it, but you're trying to look for plan B or a plan C. So maybe trying out how would plan B look, how would plan C look. But then back to your earlier question, I think what are the other things that we need to sort out? I think the major thing that this team needs to sort out is the fact that we're not able to hold on to leads. We've gone into leads and we're not able to hold on to leads. The moment we sort that out, I think we'll be on an upward trajectory toward winning matches.
All right, let's talk about numbers further. So scoring. The scoring statistics, Zambia scored 14, conceded 8. Let's look at what we've done. Between the first and 15th minute, Zambia has scored twice and conceded twice. Between the 15th and 30th minute, we've scored once and conceded twice. The same can be said about that bottom bracket, 30 to 45. 45 to 60, Zambia has scored 3 times and conceded once. 60 to 75, 1 goal there, and 1 goal we've scored, 0 we've conceded. Between 75 and 90 minutes, and it was something he was talking about, concentration. But yeah, we've managed to catch our opponent 6 times in the 9 games that he's been in charge, and 3 have been conceded. So, and that's the most. It looks like that's club risky business. The first 15 minutes, 2, and the last 15 minutes, and in between, we've conceded 3 goals in between that time bracket. And you talked about concentration, and I don't know whether we should also call it a maturity issue, but those are the numbers.
And if you actually look at the numbers, you can tell, say, okay, yeah, what usually happens is mostly for us to get those 6 goals at the 75 to 90th minute, the formation actually also changes. Mostly we go more open at the end of the game. We're down, we're leading 1-0, maybe we need 2 more goals, we need 1 more goal. So I feel also the instructions from the bench.
Or we generally don't stop attacking. That could be another characteristic, frankly.
True.
Could be an indication that we attack relentlessly, especially in the final quarter of the match. But then it is a positive that we score. It is also a negative that we concede.
As we are attacking.
Period, yeah.
Yes, as we are scoring. It gets back to the issue of balance, because even the concentration, for example, on the defensive side, concentration might not only be about the mind, but it also about numbers. It's also about closing up the right spaces, especially toward the dying embers of the game. Also considering that usually when you're playing certain teams, in the final minutes they'll throw the kitchen sink at you. You know, they are probably trying to equalize. They are probably trying to kill off a match.
And the tactics would have changed throughout the 90s.
Yes, and usually you find that teams will lose their shape in the final stages. But then if you're not going to concede in the final stages, you need to ensure that even if the opponent has thrown the kitchen sink at you, keep your shape, seal off the dangerous areas, and you're going to sail through. But if you do not do that, we'll concede a lot.
So, should there be a point where we say, listen, gentlemen, we've got a lead, we are closing shop, we want to protect this 1 or 2 goal lead, and we've stopped attacking. We are going to play some Catanaccio now.
I feel even the issue of communication also plays a part. Because if we have issues of like Mwene, Sunzu, you know, we're in attack and we expect the keeper to still maintain, make sure each player at the defense is in the right position despite attacking. We expect the defender, the number 5, mostly to communicate, to say, okay, we're in attack. I expect you to hold back. The right back is pushing forward. I expect you to do this. You're number 6. I expect you to do this. I expect this. Whilst we're attacking. But most of the time we've seen that we'll be attacking and everyone is just quiet. Oh, let's just go out. And that's also one of the reasons why we've conceded goals. The lack of.
I think when you are also just what I said, when you're trying to close shop. You should also be mindful the way you set up as you close shop, and it should always give you an option of being able to get the ball into the opposition half and make use of it. Yeah. There are times when a team will close shop and then they'll keep hooping the ball up the field,
giving it back to the opponent.
There's no one to receive it. There's no one to pick up the second ball, and then if you are setting up shop that way, then you're basically not shutting up shop in any way. You are just inviting more trouble. And so, if you're going to close up shop, it's important that even as you pump the ball forward, there's someone who's willing to receive it. There's someone going to go for the second ball, and you should be able to push up in a way. Yes, there are times when you might be pegged in, but try and find the space to push up.
Do we have the players to tactically close shop?
Yes, I think we do. I think we do, but then maybe it is like I'm just from saying it could be how we are trying to close up shop. Do we have the players? Yes, we do, but probably we're not closing up shop the correct way. If, for example, we decide to sit back. Like we keep saying, if we decide to sit back, if we push the ball forward, who's going to receive it? If option A doesn't work, who's option B receiving? Who's getting the second ball?
But the other question, I said, the way we have been setting up and the way we play, are we getting the very best out of our players and the potential that it has in terms of our squad?
I think based on the results, he's getting the best out of his players. Or he's getting the best.
The question, are you in love with the way we're approaching them? Edge of the seat moments, you know, the feeling that the average Zambian supporter wants to get when they go and watch a football match?
Personally, I would want them to play differently. But understanding from the perspective of Cheng, he's getting the best.
We should accept the change.
Yes.
Accept the change. Will not attack
if that
the
change,
way we are.
If that change still keeps us winning, then we might accept it. But if it works against us, then not.
Then there's a problem.
Ultimately, I think we should set up in a way that allows us to play the way we want to. we should set up in a way that players are comfortable to play. We should set up in a way that players are able to express themselves. Players are able to make it hard for the opponent to break us down, and ultimately should be able to win. If we don't get those three basic things right, then we're in trouble.
But it comes back to the issue of the spine, because the spine ultimately will place a limitation on what you are able to do offensively and defensively, and all your ideas and plans about the game will be dependent on the spine. Should we expect some casualties as a result of this transition period? And yeah, Agrechiang has called it a rebuild, and he's following through on those words. A lot of new players are going to come.
Generally, when there's any competition coming ahead, we expect disappointments of in terms of selection of players. So I bet there'll be a lot of players that will be cut from the list.
All right. So we've also seen a couple of players holding the armband for the Chipolopolo. Adrian Chama has been captain at Chan and Kosafa level. When it comes to the substantive Chipolopolo, it begs the question: who should be Agrechiangi's captain in terms of Chipolopolo proper?
Who should be the captain? One who fits the bill. Who do we pinpoint at? At the moment, it's hard to pinpoint because we've already identified that we're not sure what the spine is to start with. We're also not sure who is going to play in which game. And so from that angle, it begs a lot of questions. However, ultimately the question should be, the captain should be one who commands respect in the dressing room. This should be one that is able to motivate the lads when the chiefs are down. One that everyone should be able to.
Who are the candidates, gentlemen? I was hoping you could drop some names.
First, we should know the people who are actually going to be picked as players.
No, but I mean, you can tell. Okay, look. In the case of Chan, we know it's Adrian Cham.
Yes.
And in
Adrian Cham. But in the case of the substantive Chipolopolo proper, who is the captain, or who should be the captain of the Zambia national soccer team in view of the rebuild that's taking place? Because we've had Mwene having the armband, we don't know whether he'll be there. Stopila Suzu would be one of the senior players if he's around. Okay, Rainford. So Rainford Calab as well hasn't been in the reckoning. So who would we be looking at to be the bearer of the armband?
I think the fact that Kabaso Chongo has had it for some time, and the players that are likely to be called, if he's part of that team, he might still be the captain. But who should be the captain?
Is it Kabaso? And when you say Kabaso, are you speaking from a place of, look, qualitatively, it's Kabaso Chongo, and yeah, based on the leadership in the team will be like this?
You see, the number of the kind of players that we have at the moment, it's hard to pinpoint who should be captain, especially that we're not so sure about who's going to make the team and who's not going to. But then if
could we say Kabaso Chongo is part of the spine?
As it stands now, yes.
That's what I was saying. Once we know the
should be part of the spine.
As it stands now, yes. Especially if he should be part of the spine.
Should he be the?
He is part of the spine.
Gentlemen, is he or should he?
Right now he is, but should he?
I would say the answer to both of your questions is yes. All things considered, the answer to both of your questions is yes. Should he be part of the spine? Yes, because if you look at the back line and the kind of experience that he has, then yes, he made his debut quite some time back, 2012 or 2013, somewhere there.
Yeah, he's a Kosafa winner.
Yes, 2013, and how many games has he played? He's played quite a number of games. Let's look at the level at which he's playing at Mazembe. He's been exposed. So based on that, you can say he should be part of the spine, and he is part of the spine. So
he's the alpha male.
Yeah, at the moment, yes.
Gentlemen, you seem to be stuttering.
You know, Zite, trust me, once we get that spine in order, then we'll get all the answers that we need from the spine.
Kabaso is a good captain. The games that he's captained, the dead rubber, we won it. In the friendlies that we lost in Europe and is it North Africa? Yes, we lost, but he showed leadership qualities in a lot of ways. And so the games that he has played with the players that have been available, he's been fit to be the captain. So
Finally, gentlemen,
We
the
can move forward
Glyphus
on
of
that
time is catching up with us, but let's talk about the tactical dilemma that Beston Chambeshi and Agre Chiangi may need to deal with. It's regards the status of the under-23 players. We know that some of the games at the under-23 championships don't fall in the window. The clubs versus country row might come to haunt us. But not only Zambia, everyone. So, how do we set up on our end? Right now, we've got an under-23 camp that has been called predominantly local players. We've got a sneaky feeling that we've got a better chance of getting all our players from the local teams because they share the Zambian dream, as opposed to the teams abroad. So, it begs the question, how do we deal with the same?
in a case where the clubs are able to release them if they are talked to nicely, it would be good to have them. But do they go for the under-23 or the senior team? I think the thing is, for the senior team, for example, for Patson, we can, I think, replace him much easier. We have a lot more options up top. For Enoch, it's a tricky one. But then at under-23, are they able to replace Enoch? When he was put out of the Congo-Brazzaville game, when they played him, there was a problem there. So are they able to play without him? It's a tricky situation that we find ourselves in. But ultimately, if they are released by their clubs, we'll have to.
If they release him, where do we take him?
Where do we take him? We haven't been to the Olympics in 31 years.
And that's the biggest.
And we haven't been to the AFCON
in the last two AFCONs.
2015.
I think the biggest question.
Which one is the bigger monkey?
The biggest question to ask is, what do we want to win? Or which one is what do we want to achieve
which one is the more embarrassing statistics? Not being to AFCON since 2015 or not being at the Olympics?
Let's also look at
since 88.
Because I feel the Olympics is a bigger tournament. It's
I think AFCON is bigger.
I
However, the way we can do it is, even for Enoch, if Agre wants to set up differently, we can actually let go of Enoch to go to the under-23. We have players that can play that attacking role, though they might not really excel as much as he does, but we can always find a way. And this is why you see the quality of the coach. It's finding a replacement.
But the dingy reality also could be that they could come for a week and need to go back.
And so if they come for a week, then they go for the senior team.
Okay, I wish CAF could write a love letter to FIFA.
I feel it's time for Mopo to just be pushed to the national team.
Forget about it.
Let's let him forget about it. Let's build the national team.
Settled?
We can as well replace him in the under-23.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah. Gentlemen.
But he's an important player for both teams.
For both.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. That's all we could package. Zambia's Premier Analysis show makes a return on Monday at 20:30. Good night.
What is passion? A feel of contentment?